This is the smallest gavel I've been able to bang as Lieutenant Governor. So, good morning, everyone. It is an honor to be here for this meeting of our task force on pretrial incarceration. I want to thank everyone who is here in attendance for this occasion. I want to thank the task force members for their continued engagement and participation across several meetings all across the state, across the meetings of our subgroups to deliberate and to reflect upon all of the input and engagement that we received from just members of the public, both in person during our meetings, in person doing the constituency conversations that we had across the state with many different interests and many different folks, ranging from people who have been the survivors and victims of crimes to law enforcement, to judges, to family members, and everywhere in between. And I really appreciate that that engagement has led to what we believe will be consensus around a strong statement about reforming our system of criminal justice through the county jail system for the betterment of the people of Michigan, that can protect public safety, that can promote victims' rights and services, and that can ultimately lead to a more just experience of reality for people all across the state of Michigan. I want to thank our partners from the Pew Charitable Trusts who have worked with us to support this task force and to support the people of Michigan as we have reached this consensus on how to move forward and advocate with our partners in the legislature. I want to particularly thank the legislators who have participated in this process on the task force, as the next phase of this process now moves to working with the legislature in a direct way to ensure that these recommendations, or some version of them, can be codified into law. It's critical to make clear that the work does not end with the vote that culminates this meeting. This is now, we are beginning a new phase, so it's more like commencement, less like graduation. We're beginning now to understand and open up the lines of communication, even more so than they already have been, to understand how can we work through the details so that the spirit of these recommendations can be reflected and that ultimately people will experience more justice. Our goal is to ensure that people are treated with dignity, humanity, and respect, that people have the services they need to be their best selves and to be successful in Michigan, and that if people make mistakes, if people make poor choices, they're held accountable and they are also put on a path to atone for those choices and those mistakes. And I think that's where we've landed here with this consensus, and I appreciate the engagement of everyone helping to make that a reality. We're going to continue to work together. We're going to continue to work through, what may be still some commas or some dots on some I's or some crosses on some T's or some semicolons that still are going to be worked out. But ultimately, we're going to deliver a strong, consensus-based report to our legislature and begin working with our partners. I also want to remind people that this task force does not disappear after today's meeting. The task force will remain an entity through September of 2020. And that's important because we as a body will continue to advocate and work together to ensure that the best version of these recommendations does get implemented by lawmakers here in Michigan. This is Michigan's task force, though. This work is not about the individual members of this task force. This work is not about our partners from Pew. This is about the people of Michigan who we represent. This is about ensuring that, again, we are participating in this representative democracy for our responsibility by ensuring that the policies that we implement are representative of the values of our people. So thank you for participating in this process in such a genuine and robust way. And now I want to, with thanks, pass things over to my distinguished co-chair, Chief Justice Bridget McCormack, and thank her for her leadership.
Thank you all. I want to echo the Lieutenant Governor's gratitude to each and every member of the task force. But first I want to thank the public who showed up over and over again across the state and shared with us their experiences as people who had survived crime, as people who had survived the criminal justice system, to help us figure out how we can do better. It was brave, and we couldn't have done it without that participation. I want to thank everybody at this table for their hard work and collaboration, ability to listen and reflect, and to work and come together in ways that will allow Michigan to be a national leader in safety and in justice. I want to thank the staff, Terry, Gracie, Quentin, Erica, Michelle, Ryan, Alex, Catherine, Krista, and Cammie. You all have made it possible for us to get done what we've gotten done. I could say something about every single person at this table, and I wish I had the time, but we are on a clock. But I would like to recognize in particular our subgroup chairs, Lieutenant Miller, Judge Boyd, and Senator Santana. Thank you. November and December were a whirlwind, and you navigated us through hours and hours of debates and drafts and conversations and revisions and more revisions, and we're very, very grateful for your work. When we first gathered in Detroit in July, we did not know enough about who was in our jails and why our jail populations had expanded so dramatically when crime was at a 50-year low. But we knew it was worth figuring out because we knew that with the people assembled around this table, the diverse people assembled around this table, we could find ways to make Michigan's communities safer, stronger, and healthier. We sensed that with enough hard work, we might recommend policies that produce accountability, policies that treat mental health and substance abuse issues to reduce reoffending, and policies that give survivors of crime the voice and the support they need and don't always get. You've all done so much work to get here, and we appreciate especially that you all have busy day jobs too, and other many commitments on your time that didn't abide during the past 6 months. You just did this anyway. Some of you did double and triple time in subgroup work because, well, we needed your voice, and you said yes. In all of your day jobs, you serve the public. Everyone at this table does. Many of you even face voters who judge you on that service. You have shown yourselves to be the very best of public servants, willing to dig into a difficult problem, one that is too easy to politicize and weaponize, and you work together to make important, data-driven, values-based recommendations to transform our jail and pretrial policies to better serve our communities. You give public service a good name. Thank you for your sustained work, thank you for your seriousness of purpose, and thank you for your courage. The way we're going to proceed this morning is we are going to take roll. We finally learned by the last meeting that that's something we do to start it. We are then going to go around the table, and everybody is going to have a very short opportunity to reflect on our process. We will then take a roll call vote.
And we're going to do the minutes.
Oh, I swear, one of these days we'll both approve the minutes and take roll. Could we have one more meeting? No, we're done. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes? So moved. Do we have a second? Who supports approving the minutes? Aye. Should we take roll? Yes. Lieutenant Governor Garland Gilchrist.
Present.
Chief Justice Bridget McCormick is present. Lieutenant Jim Miller. Present. Honorable Thomas Boyd. Here. Senator Sylvia Santana.
Present.
Dr. Amanda Alexander.
Present.
Sheriff Jerry Clayton. Present. Craig DeRoche. Here. The Honorable Prentice Edwards. Present. Bill Gutzweiler. DJ Hilson. Here. Monica Johnner. Dean Cheryl Kubiak. Present. Representative Mike Mueller. Here. Attorney General Dana Nessel.
Here.
Takora. Commissioner Bill Peterson. Present. Senator Jim Runstead.
Linda Hyatt, present on behalf of Senator Runstead.
Commissioner Jim Talon.
Here.
Rob Verheulen. Here. Representative Yancey. Starting over there.
All right, so thank you, everyone. So we're going to start at this end of the table with Mr. Nian Fakutsa, and again, you have the opportunity to make a statement about this process and about the consensus that we've reached.
Okay. I'm just glad, first of all, of course, it was an honor to participate, but more importantly, I'm glad that this task force was assembled. We're not done yet. I'm proud of what we've done, but there's more to be done. So I'd like to echo all the comments made by the Lieutenant Governor and the Chief Justice. We're not done yet, but I'm excited to see what will become of this paper once we breathe life into it. And thank you all.
I, too, would like to thank the chair and co-chair for putting this together. It's also been an honor to serve on such a panel. Also being able to bring some of my experience of 19 years of law enforcement into the process. I think the panel and the task force has come together to, address the concerns of the overcrowding in the jails, which will reduce burden to the taxpayers and to our counties. It will keep our communities safe. It'll also keep people accountable, and it will also not tie the hands of law enforcement. So I think it's a good consensus on everything, and I think it's a needed change. And again, it was just an honor to serve with all of you.
Hang on, Monica. I think Lieutenant Miller has comments from Bill Gutzweiler, so we're getting to you.
On behalf of Chief Gutzweiler, he sent me an email last night with his notes. He's unable to be here because of an illness. He says, tell the task force members for me, it was truly a learning experience for me, and it was an honor to work with all the professionals on this task force. And we all know him to be a man that's direct and of little words, so that was it.
Oh, thanks. It has been humbling to sit at this table. I have learned so much. The experience of having this opportunity, there's not even a word to define this, but I'm not done. I'm ready to join the next phase of this game. So, I'm here for the long haul.
It has definitely been an honor and a privilege for me to serve on this task force with some of the most dedicated individuals that I've worked with since being in the legislature, I will add, in the legislature. It has been really enlightening to know that we can work across the aisle to accomplish common goals. We all have the same, we've discussed it, we may have different ideologies and how to get there, but we all have the same goals in mind. We all want our families safe, we all want our community safe, and I believe that we work together to get to reach that common goal. I also would like to thank all of the staff from Pew. We won't go through names, as we stated, we don't have that much time, but you all have been awesome in facilitating and directing and providing the data that we needed. When we didn't have certain information, you were sure to get back with us on the information that we asked for. And those were all things that we needed in addition to the testimony that we heard across the state, compelling testimony that we heard across the state. We definitely would not have been able to accomplish this much without any of you. And I look forward to seeing how everything unfolds. I know we have a lot of more work to do. This is just the beginning, but I look forward to continuing to work with you all.
So I want to echo the sentiments of those who spoke before me and say thank you to everyone at the table. It's been an honor to work with you all. It's been an honor to work at with those policy analysts who've done a ton of hard work in this project. And it's been an honor to serve in this capacity and hear from the public as well. In a relatively short period of time, we covered a ton of information and made a lot of tough decisions and addressed a lot of tough issues. And ultimately, there's more work that needs to be done, but I think that the recommendations that are proposed here will give the legislature a good groundwork, a good basis to work from, and a good framework to work within. So again, thank you all for your service, and it's an honor to be a part of this group.
Good morning, everyone. I just want to say that my role on the task force has been the victim advocate. And because advocating for victims has been my life's work, I really appreciate all of the thoughtful discussion that we've had with victims and around victim services. I feel very respected and heard on this task force around those issues. As I said at the first meeting, I define or describe victims as those who have experienced crime, but also have been victimized by the criminal legal system. So on behalf of those different perspectives, I want to thank those in the crime victim community, particularly the domestic violence, the sexual assault community, those who have had experiences of murdered family members, as well as those in the mental health community for being part of the discussions and part of the forums. And I hope that we have done great justice to those voices in these recommendations, and I truly believe that we have. Thank you.
I've really enjoyed working on this task force. It's been very enlightening for me. From that first meeting in Detroit, we gave our introductions, and I sat at the table saying, there's no way in the world in a few months we're all going to come up with something that we all agree on. This bipartisan group came up with a work product that I think corrects issues that people that in the law enforcement field have been complaining about since the beginning of my career over 20 years ago. There are still work left to do, but this takes care of everything from dispatch all the way through disposition. So everything from the initial call to 911, all the way through sentencing, parole, and probation, with the intent of taking care of the issues and keeping people out of jail that don't need to be in jail and getting them the real help that they need. It's been an honor and a privilege to work with this task force. I've learned something from all of you, and I look forward to our future. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Justice McCormick, Lieutenant Governor Gilchrist, for your leadership. Thanks to the members of the task force. Specifically, I'd like to thank the members of Subgroup B. Thanks for listening and talking and listening some more. I am where I began in July at the meeting in Wayne State. I observed that successful criminal justice reform in recent years has included three key elements. The work of this task force has included those same three elements. First, a broad-based group willing to dive into the data, practices, and everyday experiences with our criminal justice system with dedication to evidence-based solutions. Second, criminal justice reform in Michigan is bipartisan. The new indigent defense system, preservation of preliminary examinations, and the current review of the way that we fund the trial courts are perfect examples of the bipartisan approach. So too is this task force. The third common element has been that trial court judges are willing to change. As I mentioned in July, this has been true even when change meant more work and less authority. The report and recommendations before the task force today certainly include both of these. Also, I observed that trial court judges have steadfastly opposed changes that cause unnecessary delay, create unmanageable systems, or risk public safety. I wholeheartedly believe that this report is consistent with these principles. I'm not saying I agree with every word of the report's findings or every detail of the recommendations. That is not how reform happens. In fact, I'm pretty sure some of the members of the District Judges Association are going to be pretty unhappy with some of these recommendations. That is how reform happens. This is a really good product with very solid policy recommendations based on strong data, input from all relevant stakeholders, and the thoughtful collaboration of each and every task force member. It's with great enthusiasm that I support forwarding this report to the legislature as the next step in this important work.
Thank you, Judge Boyd, for that wonderful segue. I just want to take the opportunity to say it's been an honor to serve on this task force. Thank you, Chief Justice, as well as Lieutenant Governor Gilchrist, for chairing this task force as well. There is so much diverse perspectives on this task force that really help to shape the conversation and also be able to come up with a work product that is something that I believe the legislature will be able to work in a bipartisan fashion to get done. It goes without saying that we do need to reform our justice system and make sure that people are being treated fairly, no matter if they're poor or don't have the type of resources to be able to have the proper ability to have a pretrial or be able to continue their lives economically in the interim of a pretrial. But I think that we came up with some great recommendations. I want to thank first and foremost the people who came across the state to testify and to provide their own experiences and provide that information to us. It goes without saying that hearing from the constituency and the residents of the state of Michigan means so much to this work that we do. And so I want to thank also Subgroup C, who worked diligently with all the different ideas. I know there were things that we still were not able to get done, but definitely this work doesn't stop today. So I look forward to continue to work with each and every individual up here and also be able to continue to bring forth good policy to make sure that Michigan is on the forefront of criminal justice reform. Thank you.
Again, I'd like to echo what everybody else is saying, but this task force did a lot of work. And when I was approached by MAC back in September about being on this committee, I was a little bit overwhelmed about, can I fit in? But you know, when Megan from MAC called me and I said, okay, I'll get in it, this group made me welcomed, and I got my input put in. Being a county commissioner in the smaller counties in northern Michigan, I've learned a lot. My input has been welcomed, and hopefully we continue to improve on this program right now and go forward. Thank you.
So I've realized as I get closer to 50, I got to wear these stupid readers. It's terrible. First and foremost, I'd like to thank the governor.
You turned 50 a while ago, DJ.
Listen, that's no slight on all those folks that are in that 50 age group. I apologize.
Wait to get to the 60.
Yeah, right. I'd like to thank the governor for the opportunity to serve on this commission. It has truly been an honor to be a part of innovative change in the criminal justice system. I'd also like to thank all the members, all you members. It's been really a privilege to again, in the various things that I've been able to do in my capacity, working with my association, get to know different people with different ideas from different parts of the state. That is truly a benefit that I'll never forget. So thank you for allowing me that opportunity. Most importantly, I want to thank the members of my subcommittee that I was on. We all came from different backgrounds, different perspectives, but clearly we were able to work together on solutions within our designated area, and that was truly a treat. I want to give a hats off to our chair, Tom Boyd. Your leadership in keeping us on task and being focused was tremendous. And certainly, as I read the recommendations, it was apparent to me that all the other groups, all the other subcommittees were working equally as hard as we did. It is because of the opportunity I had to fully engage in those discussions with the Pretrial Detention Subcommittee that I'm in full support of our subcommittee's recommendations. I know decisions had to be made as to who was to serve on what subcommittee, but as I have reviewed the other subcommittee recommendations, it is clear that it might have been beneficial to be a part of those discussions as well. And certainly I completely understand that we had some limited time to provide feedback and everything, which I did take advantage of. However, this feedback was limited to broad concerns without the benefit of any detailed discussions. I absolutely believe in the spirit of what we are trying to accomplish and applaud our efforts in the tight window we had in delivering very progressive and what I consider to be in some cases, aggressive recommendations. It is because of my belief in the spirit of what we are trying to accomplish that I'm going to vote yes to this report with one condition. As it relates to the subcommittees that I was not fully a part of, I would like the record and minutes to reflect that I or any member of my association preserves the right to maintain our ability to engage in conversations and negotiations with stakeholders and legislative staff regarding specific language on any piece of legislation associated with the recommendations. Again, I can't tell you how much of an honor it's been. My hat's off to our two co-chairs. You guys really delivered quite a product, so thank you very much.
So I've crossed that 50-year-old line and forgot my glasses, so here we go. This might help. Wow. Okay. So, good morning. I'm honored to have participated in this endeavor. I was inspired by the governor's call to action around criminal social justice reform. I was motivated by the lieutenant governor and the chief justice's commitment. And the lieutenant governor said this a couple times, to do something bold, that if we're going to step out on this ledge, don't do it in a timid way. There's a tremendous opportunity for us to ignite a transformative process regarding criminal and social justice reform. And these recommendations are just the beginning of what will be a long process. I appreciate the inclusiveness of the process. the diversity of the perspectives and the thoughts and the motivation of my colleagues that sat around the table, of all the people that came from around the state to tell their story, to help round out our perspective and help contribute to what has gone into these recommendations. I appreciate all of the time, the ideas, and the expertise and the passion that everyone contributed. I'm hopeful that all of us as stakeholders are mindful of the fact that the kind of dramatic and impactful reform that we envision occurs incrementally and requires a sustained effort. We must stay focused and we must stay determined. Moving forward, I hope that we hold on to a couple of ideals. That public safety doesn't come at the expense of social equity. That, in fact, social equity and justice is the cornerstone of public safety. It is not an either-or proposition. We can do both, and we must do both. Criminal justice, social justice reform must be a co-production of the people and the government, and I think this is the start of that process. This isn't the end, but the beginning. This doesn't accomplish all that is needed. Some will think that we went too far. Some will argue that we didn't go far enough. Some may be correct. However, I am proud of the fact that we developed these recommendations by not letting the fear of saying no tomorrow get in the way of saying yes today. I'm looking forward to continuing this work. Thank you for including me in the process.
Good morning. Linda Hyaduk on behalf of Senator Runstead, who regrets not being able to attend the session today due to illness. He has prepared some comments for me to give to you. He's impressed at what a treasure trove of experience, knowledge, and diversity this task force has been, and he's just grateful to have had the opportunity to serve. He feels it's remarkable the accomplishments that we've made given the wide-ranging viewpoints of the members of the task force. He would like to thank the public, the members of the public, who came forward at hearings to bravely share their often difficult and life-changing experiences in order to assist us and others. He's thankful for the Pew staff, for their access and their flexibility throughout the process, and looks forward to working with them in the future. He's been honored to serve as a whole and looks forward to accomplishing great things as a result of the education that he's gained from being a member of this group. Thank you.
So now I know? Great. I was going to say I don't need glasses because I print everything off in 26-point font. So, so inmate and author Bernard Kerik once said that a government must protect its citizens' freedom and liberty as aggressively as it pursues justice. And those are certainly wise words, and they underscore the importance of the work this task force is doing to reform our criminal justice system. Firstly, I'd like to thank Chief Justice Bridget McCormick and Lieutenant Governor Garland Gilchrist for their incredible leadership on this issue. When individuals with the talent and dedication of Justice McCormick and Lieutenant Governor Gilchrist are at the helm, powerful innovation is inevitable. I also want to thank the task force members who have wholeheartedly committed their time and talents to this very important work. And the diversity and passion of the membership of this task force is symbolic of the breadth of our mission and our challenges. And this task force has made great strides in recognizing the need for reform, particularly by recognizing that our current criminal justice system oftentimes criminalizes poverty, that our jails and prisons should not be mental health facilities, that those charged with a crime should not bear the cost of the justice that the Constitution entitles them to, and most importantly, that prison and jail cannot be the only solution. We need meaningful diversion programs and deterrence to incarceration, as well as meaningful opportunities for rehabilitation and education to assist people as they exit the system and rebuild their lives. These issues are important to me, and this task force has reached consensus on many of them, which gives me great hope. But I sit on this committee in my role as the Attorney General and the Chief Law Enforcement Officer of this state, and that role requires me to look at criminal justice reform with a 360-degree view and to strike an appropriate balance between the impact of incarceration on offenders, the effect of reforms on the victims of crime, and the cost of those reforms to communities around this state. And with that in mind, there were several areas in the task force report, in my view, that have yet to achieve this crucial balance of the stakeholders, because we can never lose sight of the impact that a crime has on the victim. And while we must strive for bold reform, those reforms cannot be at the expense of the individuals the system was designed to protect. Additionally, we must appreciate the limitations of the criminal justice system in addressing complex social and public health challenges around addiction and behavioral issues. The state of Michigan needs a robust mental health care infrastructure to work in tandem with the criminal justice system. And it's because of those concerns that I, unfortunately, will not be able to affirmatively vote to adopt this report in its current form today, because to decide otherwise would be to fail in what I view as my responsibility in the administration of criminal justice for all Michiganders. But I ask that you not take my reluctance as a lack of commitment to our shared goals, because like all of you, I have a vision for a system that reduces over-criminalization, that is thoughtful and not merely reflexive about jail and prison sentences, and that is appropriately concerned about incarcerated populations and their conditions. But that vision must also include a robust discussion of the impact of crimes on our victims and their families, and how these changes will impact our local communities and our law enforcement agencies. So because of our common goals, I am going to be choosing to abstain today instead of providing a no vote, in the hope that my abstention will allow this conversation to continue at the legislature, where I will be vigorously advocating for innovative and bold criminal justice reforms. And it is time to transition from a criminal justice system that is not simply just tough on crime, but one that is a thoughtful system that is smart on crime. And irrespective of my vote today, I view today's events in this report as a significant step forward in that regard.
Good morning. First, thank you to the hundreds of people who offered testimony during our public comment period and offered written testimony. I said at our first meeting that when people turn personal pain into collective courage, they can change the course of history. And you were incredibly courageous and generous in sharing your stories and your experiences as survivors of crime and of the criminal legal system, and your visions for how we can be a more compassionate and just society, so thank you. The task force recommendations don't go nearly far enough, but if passed into law, they would reduce a lot of harm. For example, a recommendation to stop suspending people's driver's licenses for things like failing to appear in court or failing to pay court fines and fees will make a tremendous difference. It'll help end the cycle that so many people, including many of our clients at the Detroit Justice Center, are trapped in, of being poor, not being able to pay your fines, having your license suspended, and then not being able to drive to work without fear of being pulled over, and because there's a warrant out for your arrest because you didn't go to court, getting jailed. Our recommendations will help to stop that painful cycle. But there are many areas where we must go further. First, as I raised several times, we need to consider wholesale decriminalization as a powerful tool for reducing arrest and incarceration. It's not enough to turn misdemeanor crimes into civil infractions, because even though you can't be jailed on a civil infraction directly, you may still be subject to unaffordable fines and ultimately jail time. Responding to a civil summons still requires you to take time off of work, school, to find childcare and make other commitments, which can lead to lost income and employment. So we need to explore how we can simply strike offenses from the books altogether. Other states, including Illinois, Minnesota, Kansas, and Hawaii, have all established task forces to examine their criminal laws in the past decade, and we should do the same here in Michigan. We also learned from Pew's data, thank you, Pew team, that arrest rates have fallen over the past decade for every group in the state except for Black women. I asked repeatedly for more information on this so that we could understand why this was happening and work to address it accordingly. We need more information on the most common police contacts leading to arrest for Black women and for Native women and for trans men and trans women. Clearly, Black women's experiences of policing and criminalization are both similar to and different from our male and white counterparts. So we need specific data and specific responses to reduce arrests and incarceration for this group. And finally, we need clear policy strategies for justice reinvestment. That is, it is not enough to reduce jail populations. We need to shift our abundance away from funding police, courts, and jails, and towards funding the things that we so desperately need, like mental health services, substance use treatment. These are challenges that other systems, including our public health systems, are far better equipped to address, and that's where our resources belong. Like all real change, it is people power and organizing that will make that shift happen. Transformative change happens when people who are feeling the pain of a system force those in power to change it. And I have more faith than ever in the people of this state to keep pushing until our communities are free and thriving. Thank you.
I've been a county commissioner for 19 years. I've learned a lot during that time. A year ago or so, I started to think that it might be time to start planning for retirement. I'm over 50. And in thinking about that, I wondered what I should focus on in the twilight years of my service. And I decided to work on criminal justice issues in my community, particularly as they intersected with mental health and housing best practices. Given that background, it's been an incredible privilege to be part of this process, and I've learned so much, and I hope that I've been able to contribute at least a little. I have to admit that I smiled a lot as I read the first draft of the final report a few days ago. I also found myself saying, yes, as I read through each one of the recommendations. I said that a lot. I'm so appreciative of this report and the huge effort that went into preparing it. And I'm incredibly grateful for the expertise that so many of you brought to the table. All that said, as many others have said already, I look forward to working some more to get the stuff in here done. Thank you for the opportunity to serve my community and our state.
Good morning, and DJ, it doesn't get any better. I'll be very brief. I just want to note what a privilege it was to participate in this bipartisan process. And we have a unique opportunity to impact the criminal justice system in Michigan. And I want to thank everyone who participated, including all of those who submitted testimony and suggestions to us. Also, the Pew team, you guys and ladies did an incredible job, and I thank you. And the Chief Justice and Lieutenant Governor deserve recognition for their the leadership of a very diverse group on a very, very tight timeline. So I share the sentiment. I wondered at the time when we started, how are we ever going to get this done in time and with some degree of consensus, and you folks have done it, so thank you. And I want to remind everyone that submitting a report and a recommendation is simply the first step. We need to maintain the effort and assist the legislature and the executive to make this a reality. We don't need a report and a set of recommendations that simply go on the shelf to gather dust. Before I was elected to the legislature in 2012, there had been a report done with respect to road funding. Unfortunately, that report was never acted upon by the legislature, and as we all know, we continue to struggle with that issue today. And this example, or that example, should motivate each of us to maintain the momentum until the recommendations are dealt with and become a reality. So with that, thank you all. It's been a real privilege.
Thank you, too. I want to start with my thanks with Governor Whitmer for creating this, and I want to comment that if she was here today, she would have never let me speak last. But I'll be brief. No, it's with, it's not with pride, it's with gratitude that I want to say a couple things. I've had the privilege of, since serving in Michigan on a local city council and then serving in the legislature along with, Governor Whitmer and others, that I also had the privilege of spending some nights in jails in Michigan and going through recovery from my own addiction and having that experience be used for the benefit of other people, which is the greatest tradition in my faith, which is the greatest tradition in other faiths, but also in our country and in our state. And I've had the privilege of using my experience not only in government, but in the system and with other groups and faith leaders around this country to affect change in more than 30 states, working with the governors in the last 2 presidential administrations very closely. And I want to talk about what's different to the chairs here. I want to thank both of you, Lieutenant Governor and Chief Justice. This is extraordinary for me because I've seen and I've participated and I've staffed and I've advocated in so many of these other states. This is different, and I'll tell you why in a second. But I believe it started with the Governor Whitmer's leadership, and the Speaker and the Senate Majority Leader for taking very seriously and being very intentional about the people that they put on this, and that began with the leaders. And so I want to thank you guys for serving, but I also wanted to thank everybody else here. It is a different makeup in the way that people have done this. In other states, people have taken the review of something as important as justice as an affront rather than an opportunity. And that has made it difficult. We've still been able to make progress, but it made it difficult to get to transparent, honest discussions. And that was nearly absent here in Michigan. People took it as an opportunity. They didn't take it as an affront. And every single profession and everything was represented here. And so I just think because of that, we've come to some very substantive recommendations. I hope that we don't scare people because they're far-right conservatives like me think they're great from the other side. I do think that we still have this fun thing in America where there are opportunities for us where we share values. It's not a compromise. This is about shared values. And I was appointed here with the faith community. I believe God has never made a throwaway person. With each life comes inherent dignity and worth. And that is for the victim of a crime. That is for the person that has caused that harm and broken the laws. That is for the community and the family that's been affected. And so when you talk about justice, it's a values discussion. What's so refreshing about this group is that's what it's been about. And that's what Chief Justice mentioned in her comments. It's about our shared values going forward and that potential that we have to improve justice in Michigan. So I'm very, very, very hopeful and look forward to staying committed and know that this work should very well be received and applauded in the just wonderfully diverse faith community that we have in Michigan as a huge step forward.
Well, I'm glad we didn't invite the governor because that was a good ending on. Amen, Speaker. What we're going to do next is take an official vote, and we're going to take it by roll call. And I want to clarify, we're not voting to adopt the report. Obviously, if we could just adopt the report, that'd be easy. You legislators wouldn't have anything to do. We just did it here. It's actually a much more modest vote. The vote is whether to deliver this report to the legislative leadership, which we intend to do by tomorrow night, which is the deadline in the executive order. There are still some bells and whistles. We're cleaning up some footnotes and some typos that we found, and we're going to get that done in the next 24 hours, and we will deliver it to the legislative leadership by tomorrow. We will actually release it to the public at an event with the Speaker and the Senate Majority Leader, where we are going to deliver it to them at their house on Tuesday, and everyone in the task force is invited to join us there. So the vote we're taking, again, is just to deliver this set of recommendations in our report on what we found to the legislative leadership. And we are going to call roll. Do you want to call this one?
So, Lieutenant Governor Garland Gilchrist II, I support. Chief Justice Bridget McCormick.
Support.
Lieutenant Jim Miller.
Support.
The Honorable Judge Thomas Boyd.
Support.
The Honorable Senator Sylvia Santana.
She supports.
Dr. Amanda Alexander.
Support.
Sheriff Jerry Clayton.
Support.
Craig DeRoche. The Honorable Judge Prentice Edwards.
Support.
Bill Gutzweiler.
On behalf of Chief Gutzweiler, supports.
Prosecutor Hilson. Support. Monica Johnner. Dean Kubiak.
Support.
Representative Miller? Mueller? Sorry. My bad.
Miller.
I support with concerns that will be noted.
Attorney General Dana Nessel?
I abstain.
Takuro Nyamfukusa? Commissioner Bill Peterson?
Support.
Senator Jim Runstead?
Support with noted exceptions.
Commissioner Jim Talon?
Support.
Rob Verheulen? Representative Tanisha Yancey. Thank you. We have, I didn't count all those, but
I think it's.
we passed it, I think. Yeah.
I think it's support. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, as we said, this will be delivered to the legislative leadership tomorrow. We are grateful again for all of the hard work. That's how we got here, was because you all were willing to put in so many hours of talking to one another to get comfortable with what we were recommending. I think Sheriff Clayton said it best. Some will think we didn't go far enough. Some will think we went too far, and some will be right. But this is the beginning of the process. We look forward to continuing to work with the folks around this table to make Michigan safer, healthier, stronger, and more just. Thank you all for coming, and we look forward to working together in the future.